Welcome to another great episode of Two Smooth Operators. Your host, Michael
Mike,
Brooks
there
from
you
Las
go.
Vegas, Nevada. Your second host, Robert Evers from North Carolina. And special guest, Mr. Nice himself, Mr. Jeremy. What's
All right.
up?
Where you
Hello,
at,
sir.
Robert? Where you at, man? Are you in
Hey,
North
that
Carolina?
was all I got for you.
All you got? All right, man. Well, look, dude, I appreciate you doing the intro for us. I'll catch up with you later on. Get a better signal.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one, and I'm gonna watch you on Facebook Live.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later. That's it, man. Well, we got a good intro started off. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Ready to enjoy my holiday weekend as well, too. So, you got any big
Good.
plans?
Just work around the place. My wife's got a honeydew list, so I'm sure I'm going to be navigating that most of tomorrow.
How often are you on the road these days?
Every couple weeks, usually. It kind of depends on how things go. It used to be every other week, all the time.
Yeah.
But
What state is your home base in? Where you're at most of the time?
I am in Nebraska.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes.
Do you guys have any kind of nice high security footprint in Nebraska?
We've got a lot of operators. We don't have any office or anything like that.
I'm looking at the Nebraska headquarters right now.
Yeah, this is it, live from the Nebraska headquarters right here.
So you and I think met for the first time out there in Evansville, Indiana, when we were installing that 310 board with the 912 gate operator and a solar package.
Correct.
So it was nice to have. I think that was the first training I ever did where I had like the real top dog there helping us out. So normally I got to deal with this guy right here. That's my Texas guy right there, Orlando. He's a good go-to guy. Yeah, he actually helped me do some videos. The only problem with that is every time I see him, he always makes me park his car. And I finally got it on video that he does that. Here's a little video. I just want you to have proof that he's abusive to us technicians that are out there by making us park his car.
Oh man,
is that the Orlando that you know?
that's kind of how he is, man. He's something else.
That's just him. Yeah, we were at Bob's Distributing. Bob's has a couple locations in Texas, and that was at the Mesquite location. And we were going to install. Brian Davis and I were going to install basically the same thing that we did in Evansville. It was a 310 board and a 912 arm, but was not solar. So generally we don't have any problems with solar, but that guy had some weird power issues going on. So we got Robert Evers out there. We know how he's doing right now. He's on the chats. Anybody's got a question for Jeremy, please add it in the chat. And also, if anybody wants to come on live, I can send you a link while Jeremy's on here if you got any questions. So just to recap, everybody who's not subscribed to our YouTube channel, it's doing really well. That's where we have the majority of our videos, and we just broke 90,000 views, and we have over 200 videos on there right now. So if you're not subscribed, it's at Two Smooth Operators pretty much on everything. So today we're going to talk about 310 board, 912 arm, and then we're also going to talk about the new changes that you guys did in the slide driver. And you guys have now got a gate operator that's got a pretty small little footprint. So we're going to talk about all those, and you're going to tell me what's new about those. But first of all, we were briefly talking about it off camera. What's your background in this? Are you just one of those corporate guys that happens to know a little bit about gate operators?
So I started 25 5 years ago or so as a technician driving around in a van, servicing operators. I actually, if you know what federal APD is, my first experiences were all fixing G90 gates. I was more in access and revenue control kind of stuff, and then started working on because of a parking garage. Started working on a local utility company's high security stuff, and that's how I got into high security. So then I worked at. Oh, my
Looks
wife
like
is here.
we got
Hi.
some family support out there
Yeah.
blowing up for you. You're trying to stack the views. Is that what you're trying to do? Telling all your family to watch? Well, hey, man, if you can't have support from your wife, man, then you can't have support from anybody. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Mrs. Jeremy, for coming on the show and saying hi and showing support. Federal ADP, they're one of those guys that they probably know more about garage barrier arms and gate operators before everybody else does. They had a really internal, a heavy duty internal sales system.
Yeah.
I remember calling them up one time, and the salesperson that I was talking to, because I needed some advice on some of their equipment, he was just like, what city and what's the address, and I'll tell you exactly where everything's at. So they had a pretty. So you work for Federal ADP, the actual company?
No, I worked for a local dealer, believe it or not, out of Lincoln, Nebraska, and we serviced everything Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota. So I was on my knees in 40 below weather working on operators in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Oh man!
But
gloves or no gloves? Because that's always my issue when we're doing service, and you've got to get like a little screw. It's like, do I take my gloves off or do I not take my gloves off? But I've never been in that cold weather. That's in Texas. That's automatic. Let's call off type weather. So
yeah, not a lot of options when something's broke, right? I mean, you get like we were, and at the airport they always assume that their stuff is very, very important. And parking garages are interesting, and I'm sure you know this, but like a 5-second wait at an operator turns into 5 minutes from a customer perspective. So they always think they waited forever, right? So if something's broken, it's it's kind of the end of the world to the customer. So you got to get it fixed. You got to get it fixed right away, and that's where I cut my teeth, right? And then Omaha, some parking garages over there. Company that had those, the utility company that had those, also had the utility plant, which had high security operators. Started working there. Worked for an integrator for a while. Worked for a distributor for a while, and then the owner of high security I bumped into him at a trade show, and he was looking for salespeople and asked if I'd be willing to join them. So I fell into sales, quite frankly, from being a technician, not the other way around, right? Like I'm not a sales guy that's learned to be technical. I was a technician that had to learn how to sell stuff, I guess, basically.
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that appreciate that side of it. But, I mean, it's 50-50. I mean, you get guys that are have always been salespeople that can train you on a gate operator like the back of their hand. So, but it is interesting, and it's good to know that there's somebody out there that knows some of the pain that we go through with board revisions, and the new product comes out, and you got to get this part to fix this, or so on and so forth. So, in your day-to-day experience, how often are you in your factories? Which one is this right here?
So that's our factory in Kent, Washington. We make slide drivers there. We make everything from the 816s. I'm sure you know what an 816 is. We make the C boxes for the residential, all the way up to our heavy duty crash stuff comes out of there.
I don't know what an 816 is. What's that?
So an 816 is as an Apollo operator.
Okay.
If you remember the old Apollos,
yes,
is
I do. Is there actuator on?
Yeah, it's the actuator
Okay.
arm.
All right. Yeah, I do know what's that. So they're still making that?
We are still making the 816.
Okay.
They're so popular that, quite frankly, in some ways we're a little concerned about getting rid of them, right? Like, how do you get rid of something that has such a loyal following?
The 816, is that the one that has the 2 silver screws in the back in order to access the limits?
It is, yes. So it's a larger black kind of oblong housing, and then an arm, um, and it's got
Yeah.
the shaft on it's actually chrome that comes out of the back, out of the other side.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, it's old school. It's relatively unchanged since 1994 or something like that. I could be.
Well, the reason why I know or remember it so much is because at one point in time, I think Apollo was based in Texas, like San
San
Antonio.
Antonio.
Okay, gotcha. So they had a pretty big footprint in Texas, along with U.S. Automatic, and with the U.S. Automatic, the Patriot arm, which is still one of my favorite arms. The big flaw with it was how you actually adjust the limits, and the limit shafts are plastic. And you have to access them with a small little screwdriver. So if you break one of those plastic limits shafts, you have to replace. It's easier just to replace the whole board time wise. However, after working on those Apollos, the way that you adjust the limits is just so nice. First of all, you can actually see them. And then the second thing, which I think a lot more manufacturers should do, is try to focus on the tools that we're going to have on us all the time, which is a Phillips head screwdriver, and that's how you adjusted the shaft on that as well too. So although the silver ones were a flathead screwdriver, and then you immediately, to adjust it, you had to get your Phillips. I don't know if they changed that to where it's still a flathead on the 2 silver covers.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I mean, it's easy enough because they're not like tightened down, and they're solid steel. So, or at least at the time they were, and you didn't have to worry about stripping them or anything like that. But yeah, that's a good arm, and I think those were compatible with other boards. But I think nowadays you don't have a Molex connector on that 912 board or on the 912 arm, do you? It's just bare wires at the end of it.
Just bare wires, right? And then you add it to whatever board you end up using.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of a good way to go, because the ones that have like the connectors already built in, at any point in time you're gonna have to cut those. Then you have to now make the new connections over to the Molex connector, as opposed to just like a little Phoenix connector plug-in. Which location is this?
This is our Grand Rapids, Michigan facility.
And how often are you in these facilities?
I'm often only a couple of times a year at each of those.
Gotcha.
Believe it or not, I've been around high security long enough that if we're a little shorthanded on the line, I'll go out there and build a few times a year. But I don't have as much of a background in the linear side to be able to build on the line, so I don't get out there as often. That's the honest to God truth.
So this one right here, this one's in Washington?
No, this is the Grand Rapids, Michigan facility.
Okay. And what are they building out of that?
So Apex boards, HSLGs, GSLGs, VSGSLGs. This is our, what everybody thinks of as the linear line.
Okay. And they still make the big box, the one that's pole mounted and all that stuff. Those are really popular up there in those northern climates.
They are. That black metal cabinet, 30 inches wide, mounts on 2 posts, super simple to install. It's like a lot of other stuff, right? The simplest is always best. And if you're doing fence and that sort of thing on a regular basis, what are you good at? I'm good at setting posts. If I can mount it on between a set of posts, it's easy, right? And then not only that, but that big black cabinet, I've got some room in there. I can shove other things inside of it, right? So now I've already got an access control cabinet going.
Yeah.
It's crazy popular for that reason.
Yeah, I've always told the people that install that, where I'm doing consulting on the jobs, is that go ahead and make you a bracket that comes across the middle, and then just do your 2 poles, that whatever they are, 2 3/8 poles or whatever, weld that bracket across the bottom, and then that gives you somewhere to hit for your conduit, and it just looks so much clean, and it's a lot more stable. So real quickly, obviously from the outside, I'm not involved in the middle as much. I may know a little bit more, think that I know more about what's going on with the company because of the stuff that I volunteer for. So what's the company? Who owns what? Where does that even affect us? What is that big of a deal to even mention, or is it just like we sell gate operators and buy them from us and that's it? Nothing's changed.
We are. So I started off with, if you don't mind, I'll back up a little bit. So I started off working with high security, kind of like I said, about 15 years ago or so, right? High security was kind of this semi-local niche company that built security operators and heavy-duty equipment. One of the things we were never going to have was like residential and access control and some of these other things, right?
Gotcha.
So Nice North America, it was down in San Antonio, and they had bought what used to be the Apollo line, right?
Okay.
We talked about that. So we merged those 2 companies together in 2016, 2017, right? So now we've got residential operators from the Apollo line all the way up to the big heavy duty crash stuff. That's great, except for, again, we're in an industry where a lot of folks have access control and everything else. So Nice makes this beautiful decision. Nice, was decided, was the parent company. Nice makes this beautiful decision to buy a company that used to be called Nortec Controls, which owned Linear and all the things that come with that. So they have
vacuum cleaners and all that stuff.
What's that?
I said vacuum cleaners and all that stuff.
Yeah, they had vacuum cleaners and everything. It's kind of interesting. I have, as part of the gig, I've scrolled through the SKUs. We had token acceptors, we had vacuum cleaners, it was everything, right? Well, we've pared that down a lot. We still have a lot of things for home automation. So automation is kind of the big overarching theme, right? So we have a lot of things for home automation, but we still have speakers, but we have a lot of AV stuff. We have the AV stuff that they use at the Super Bowl. Okay. So all the big screens you see at the Super Bowl and all that stuff, we're doing that. We have power management stuff that you can have for your home or your business. Again, still in the automation segment. We have a line called 2 Gig, if you've ever heard of 2 Gig.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
Yeah. So we have all of that. My focus, as Jeremy Brummels, is the residential and commercial operators, and are basically the lighter version of access control that goes along with operators, right? So it's not typically like the crazy high-end card access, although we do have that. Right. But that's not where I typically focus.
Yours is AK11s and wireless keypads and that type of thing.
Yep. AK11s, MDKPs, MTS3s, which is the little push button, like open the garage door, open the gate, up on the visor. Act 31Bs. I've learned all kinds of new stuff since we hooked up with the Linear side. Act 31Bs are a fob that goes on your keychain that you can open up the gate with.
They for the longest time, until we started getting some of these third-party manufacturers, they were the remote. At least in Texas, they were. It was Act 34s and Act 31s, and that was the go-to. So you're vice president of sales, but you're not involved in any of the other lines, just the gate operator stuff.
Correct.
Gotcha.
In a very technical sense, I am residential and commercial gate, door, and what we call internally radio, but it's the access control again that goes along with like gate operators and garage doors, basically.
Last, I guess it was in April. All these young men and women that you see in front of you were out in Evansville, Indiana, putting in this gate operator, and this one was the 310. That y'all have different model numbers for the housing, so I don't remember the housing, but this was the solar package. So It had to have it's a little bit bigger because it has to have that bigger battery. And I like the metal housings anyway. I don't know why. I don't necessarily need it. I just like it. I will tell you that the one that Brian and Brian Davis out of Kaufman, Texas, he helped me install the one that we did for John Anderson, that he got us involved in this project. I did a review on that box, and one thing that I really liked about it is that metal door was magnetic, so it would actually slap back in place once you put it in there. But I think I don't think that one's for the solar. That just has battery backup in there, but it's ran off of AC all the time. And there was a couple other neat things as well too. If I remember correctly, it had feet off of the back of it, so you didn't have to penetrate the housing in order to mount it. But let's talk about some of the good things and some of the things that I found a little bit unique on that board and that installation in relation to the one that we've got here that we're all standing in front of. So first of all, it was a solar option. So the solar just pretty much means different housing, and then it comes with a solar panel. Is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, gotcha. So
and no transformer, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I gotcha. It just has a little charge. Does it charge? Does it have a separate, I apologize, but I know we just installed it, but does it have a separate charge controller, or is it all
Believe it or not, we build those into the board. So we do all the charge controlling through the board. That way you don't have to have a separate, board or device of any kind to do that.
Gotcha. So the board is simple enough. The fact that you can plug in the radio receiver into that one slot that's up there, and then all the inputs and outputs that you would expect, with the exception of one. There is no mag lock, if you will, or external relay. So
no, I kind of figured you were going to beat me up about that, Brooks.
Well, it has been a topic of discussion. And here's the thing, though, that I don't point out that often that I should. Here's the one thing is I opened my mouth before I knew what the shot was. So I told my customer, I have this gate operator, and I put another gate operator in on the other side of his property, and it had to have a mag lock. He had fireworks and all this stuff behind this property, so it had to have a mag lock on it. So I said, I got this gate operator. The arm's really good. It's got a new control board in there, and you've got power out there. So this is going to be perfect for it. So before anybody says that, oh man, that 310 board, it doesn't have a mag lock. The problem is I did not look to see whether it had it or not. So to be clear, if I ever say anything about the 310 board not having that, that's I should have known before we got it. So let's talk about the ins and outs, and let's talk about any changes that might be coming up with this board.
So the big thing, and I guess we went over this a little bit the last time you were there out in Indiana, but maybe you missed it. The ease of setup is kind of one of the things I talk about with people, and I don't want to sound like too much of a sales guy here, but when you do when you're learning the limits, it's easy as, you open the single leaf, you hit the button, you close it, you hit the button, and now it's learned. Then I do the next leaf, obviously rotating the dial to learn motor 2, open, then close, and that's it. That's done. And then I set the force, I can set the close timer. If I need to set a leaf delay, I do it, and then it's run. I'm just rotating the dial to work through the settings, and that's it. That should be all you have to do. The nice thing that, if you pardon the pun, the nice thing about the board is the fact that this one doesn't require safeties. So it meets UL 325 without photo eyes.
Here's what's so crazy about it. Not only have I been told that before, you told me that in Indiana, and I still forgot about it to this day. So no photo eyes, right? Not saying that don't install them. And actually, maybe we could talk about that too, because you did bring out a through beam set of photo eyes out there. So no photo eyes or edges required. How does that work? Or is it something that's like too technical over my head? Like how does that happen?
So
to where you don't have to have a photo eye.
It's super simple. It's actually a line in UL that says that as long as it is below this minimum force threshold, it doesn't need them, and we meet that by having this. It basically it just watches the force, right? It's making sure that if it hits you, it's only going to push against you with enough force that it's not going to hurt you or anything like that. And that is the shortest version.
Okay.
Quite frankly, again, I'm like a technician that ended up as a sales guy. I'm not an engineer.
Okay.
I know that it has to do with there's an algorithm in there that watches how much force it takes and so on and so forth. But the short version is there's a certain amount of foot pounds that you can be underneath and not require photo eyes, and edges or anything like that. Now, that's not to say, and you and I have talked about this before, right? That's not to say that you shouldn't put photo eyes or edges or any of those things on. You certainly should make sure you cover all your entrapment zones. Like this is same old, but it doesn't require them. So if you don't need them, if you're on a gate that's opening into nothing and it's not gonna, you're like the likelihood of this hurting somebody is absolutely nil, right? Like I don't need to put photo eyes on there. I can save myself the installation time. I can save the expense for the customer. Done.
I just tell people that there's so much money in safety and lowering your liability. It's just so much easier just to let the customer know what their options are. But a photo eye just has to be there. Now, I am going to always put a caveat that you could go back to probably some of my jobs and take a look where the customer didn't have a photo eye. There's one particular story that I go always back to, but you have to recommend putting these photo eyes. And when you guys are out there doing service as a new install, it should be a no-brainer because you just don't give the customer the option. You just tell them that, look, I mean, at the end of the day, this thing closes on your car. It's a $5,000 paint job or it's a $600 photo eye right now. Which one do you want? But we don't even give them really, in essence, the option for something along those lines. And as a matter of fact, in commercial operators, if they're having, if it's a truck yard or something, we put two photo eyes, one at 52 and one at 24, and just call it a day. You're going to save having to come out there and repair that gate. And unfortunately, if they break that gate in the first couple of weeks, they're going to want it warranted, whether it's your fault or not. But I always tell this one story that there's a customer who, in essence, she was an old elderly lady who had lost her husband and her family wasn't close by, and her gate wouldn't close one day, and it did not have a photo eye on there. Friday night, late at night, and it was a slide gate, a pretty heavy gate, and what she had built into her head was that gate is my security. That is my guy standing out there with a baton and a gun protecting my property. And we all know that this is just access control. It's not security. Right. So if you tell me that I'm going to not tell that customer that they need to pay $600 for a photo eye, I can get to you on Monday, that I'm not going to close that gate. And I don't need you to agree or disagree with this, but if you don't think I'm going to close that gate, you're dead wrong. I'm actually going to do it. But you just save yourself so much time and headache if you don't do this, right? Just putting a photo eye on it, regardless of whatever the law or regulation or code is. It just makes so much sense to put a photo eye in these gate operators. But knowing that this one doesn't have to have one, what did we do anyway because of the customer's request? We had to put a photo eye in at the gate because you got trailer, you got all that stuff coming in, and you got people with multiple remotes and keypads. All it takes is one accident for that gate to grab that trailer. So it's interesting that you're talking about force, because that would lead me to believe that these gate operators can't handle anything of substance. But that's not true, because I've seen the specs. So what are these gate arms rated at?
Oh man, now you got me right off the top of my head.
I think it's 1,000 pounds.
I think that's feet. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because under normal circumstances, I can spout off any number at any time. But of course, you put me on the spot, and then I can't remember. But yeah, I think it's 1,000 pounds right off the top of my head.
Yeah, something like that. So it's
I'm gonna look
interesting.
it up while we're talking.
It's interesting how it still has that low energy to where it won't either keep pushing or whatever the case may be. So I'll have to ask one of the technical guys at one time. So the photo eyes that you brought out there. So I think that pretty much covers the board, but the board does have a option for a receiver, correct?
Yes, it does. So that little black, and I'm pointing at the screen like you're going to be able to see what I'm.
I do it all the time. I'm over here with my mouse pointing at it, going, "You guys do this," and it's like, "No, we can't see your mouse." So yeah, that little black rubber piece up there, the top right hand corner.
Yep, that's it, and it is for an Oxy receiver. We call it an OXI or an Oxy receiver. There is, and here's a little sneak peek at something. We have a mega code, mega code, multi-code, that kind of thing. We have a mega code Oxy that we are just releasing here shortly that will plug right into that slot. Otherwise, we've got the standard nice version that with the little tiny remotes. Those are like a what are they, 318? But we plug those. We can plug those in and run the little nice remotes.
Okay.
Or you can go to the mega code and plug it in there. So really, again, just trying to make it super simple by having a radio I can just stab into the board. And
it definitely saves on wiring. We get so many of these receivers. I still got to go cut out 2 feet of wire and strip it back. And you spend 10 or 15 minutes doing that to put that in. So that does make it beneficial. But when you're saying mega code, which one did we have out there in Evansville?
So that was the mega code one. I brought one with me. I may have given you a sneaky version that wasn't supposed to be issued yet necessarily. So you might have one roaming around somewhere. But yeah, the little blue receiver there is a mega code Oxy receiver. So
and what advantage do I have with that one?
So there's tons of mega code remotes, and they're super popular, right? Like mega code's been out in the world for forever. Linear's been doing it for a long time, and I can put it in my home link or whatever, link it to my vehicle. That's the other nice thing about the mega code. There's a lot of
so ACT 34B, ACT 31B,
all those things, right? The fobs, all that works with the mega code.
Okay. And you guys, are y'all still doing garage doors?
We are.
Okay.
We are.
So in theory, my brother has two at his house. Actually, yeah, a third one as well too. He went and bought, the light bulb went out. He put light bulbs in there, couldn't figure it out or whatever the case may be. So he went and bought this light bulb kit to replace the socket in it for $90 or whatever it is. I mean, I know you got to charge for whatever it's cost. So I said, let me take a look at it. So tested voltage in there, and I just bent the little tab back out. Then the light bulb started working. So the benefit in theory could be that if you have ACT 34B, you've got access to your gate that you could program it directly in there. And then you also can program it into your garage door openers, and each one have their own button.
Same thing with like an MTS3 or something, right? So I've got the remote up on my visor with the 3 buttons. I've already got it working for my garage door. I can use it for my gate as well.
Gotcha.
Same exact thing.
I can't remember what the USB port was used for. Is that just firmware only?
Yeah, so that's the updating the firmware on this one. Yep.
So can I copy what I have one set at and or the settings and everything from one? I replace the board and
not with this one, but with our 725 boards, you can.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute.
That's the more commercial and industrial board, right?
So what's in the future for this board? Is this they going to do anything else with it by chance?
Well, I will leak one thing. There is going to be a mag lock option. Just I think we're going to call it the Michael Brooks option. It's actually going to be listed as the Brooks port on the board.
Man, I'd probably prefer not to be associated with that. I might get yelled at. I already got yelled at by one manufacturer this week. Let's not get yelled at by two. So, but yeah, here's the thing that I want people to think about when they're installing these gate operators, especially a small business owner. I want to lower the number of SKUs that I have on my truck. If you run a service department, you have no choice. You are going to have to carry a LiftMaster CSW LA 500 board. You're going to have to carry one of the high security. I carry the Apollo 1050, I think it is. You're going to have to carry patient board and so on, right? So you're going to have to do that. But when I have a new install crew go out, limiting the number of SKUs that they have to carry on their truck is what was important. And if by chance the customer does want a mag lock, which I would say is probably about one out of every 50, maybe 75, 100 residential gates that we offer it to, some people install them on all residential gates, depending upon the arm. It would just help me lower the number of SKUs. So it's not that I'm pissed off that it doesn't have that. Again, I'm pissed off because I was dumb enough not to read the manual. And then the second thing is lowering the number of SKUs. So that's why I was thinking that it would just by default have that mag lock option. So now, will you do two boards, or is this actually like a plug-in module type thing?
There'll be just an updated version.
Okay.
You know, and can you do it with this board? Is there a workaround to make it? Yeah, you can. But is it the easiest, simplest thing when you're trying to do a mag lock? No, it's not. So the new Rev will just have it built into that just to make it easier.
For anybody that there's 2 or 3 Altronic products that I carry on my truck, power supplies and relay wise. So if anybody knows how to wire in a relay that has a built-in timer, this is very, very easy to make this board have the mag lock. So it's not like it's complicated. However, from a service standpoint, I don't want any of my guys to have to know how to do that because it would probably just show how I failed in teaching them how to wire this up. So So anything else about this board that they need to know? It comes as a dual board, so you don't have to have 2 boards. This automatically comes with both boards, and then all the inputs, open, stop, close. I think it has a fire input. I could be wrong, but anyway, exit and all that good stuff. It has built into it, but there are multiple boxes for those guys that are doing AC or solar. Now, this was the second time that I put in one of these arms, and the one that we did out in Evansville was a dual, so it had 2 arms. You guys did something that was so perfect, which is including or not including, but already building the secondary cable onto the arm.
Yep.
If other manufacturers don't take note of that and realize, yes, there is no doubt, if, ands, or buts, we're going to waste 15, 20 feet of that. And I think you guys put a 40-foot cable on there, right?
Oh, it's
long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So we had to get underneath the drive, which generally in a dual situation, you are going to have to get underneath the drive. And we had plenty of wire, but the great thing about it was I didn't have the $5 expense for the box to mount on the hinge post to make my junction point. I didn't have the cost for the $2 fitting, cost for the conduit, even though we did run conduit for the photo eyes, cost for the conduit, and the exact same thing on the other side, possibly. But forget that, the hour of labor that it takes me to do that, you guys don't realize you're saving technicians $200. So it's a very great idea that you did that.
Well, and you're not heat shrinking or soldering and heat shrinking or crimping and heat shrinking or any of that other stuff, right? At most, you cut it, you restrip it. I mean, that's way more simple than splicing wires together like you said, 2-3 times just to get across that driveway. Plus, I mean, you didn't buy a bunch of wire, right? I mean, it came with the operator. So
I think that's super smart, and it's got to lower the number of or shorten, if you will, the number of tech support calls you get, because you no longer have to worry about what I have seen happen hundreds of times. Is they have an actuator arm, a secondary actuator arm, or sometimes even the primary actuator arm if the box is further away. You take that cable and they will cut the connector right off at the end and then make their junction and then pull that junction underneath the driveway and put it in conduit. And it's very easy to spot. It's like it should be something that's taught in these schools. But yeah, it's got to shorten the number of tech calls that you get.
Well, it does. And, selfishly in some ways, right. We don't want many more tech calls than we have to have. It's not just because of customer service, but we've got to have people sitting there, bodies there to actually take all of those calls. Right. But also from a technician standpoint, like that was one of the things I hated, right? You'd walk up and there'd be a bunch of ice cube relays and 400 feet of lamp cord. And, I don't know where anything goes. I'm trying to trace out a short. Nothing's easy to find, right? And this is the same way, right? Like, I don't know where the last guy spliced that. I've got wires in all kinds of different colors coming into the box. Who knows what actually was attached on the other side, or if it's spliced again into the driveway or whatever. We're trying to take some of the pain and suffering out of it for the service tech, not just the installer, right?
Yeah. And thank you for that.
Hey,
because
one thing we can do, right?
Right. Well, you actually hit several home runs on this particular arm as well too. But maybe you know this, but a lot of manufacturers and a lot of distributors don't recognize that I take tons of support calls every freaking week. It's on your products, on everybody's products. So I'm not trying to say this just to lower your tech time. I'm trying to lower mine as well too. And the first thing is do you have your meter and have you tested power? If you don't have the answer to that question, then you don't know how to get me a phone call to get you some tech support. So a couple other things that I like is the handle and then that front pin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those two things, the disengage handle and then the how the front pin was built?
So the handle is, it basically, again, it's just another one of those things. What's one of the first things the customer calls to complain about if their gate doesn't work? Well, how do I open the dang thing? So I can go out and I can turn the key in the handle, lift the handle up, and I can swing the gate. It's completely released from the motor and everything else, right? So now I'm not messing up limits. I'm not breaking something. I'm not back driving the motor or anything like that. I can just swing the gate open, drop the handle back down. Now the gate's open. If I really wanted to, I could do it again to close it. It just makes it super simple. And you're not trying to get the customer to do something crazy to get the thing open or closed. You're not trying to get them to push against, the force of the motor or anything like that. Really, really, again, trying to take the complication out of it for the service tech, the customer, both, right? And then the pin is really much the same, right? We've actually got a specific shape carved into that pin so that if your arm alignment is not 100% on point, which should it be? Yeah, I hope so. But if it's not 100% on point, your gate swings just a little bit down or up, either of those things, it's got that little bit of a wobble built into that pin so that it can kind of deal with a little bit of misalignment, right? If your gate's swinging down or swinging up, the operator's not 100% level like it should be, it's going to cope.
And our friend Brian Fredrickson said, "What's up, guys? Great show." He was out there helping us do the quick start classes out there in Evansville as well too. But yeah, that pin. One thing is obviously no longer the manual release, like you've got the arm. Is it possible to leave that arm unlocked and not have a problem with it working? Because just out of curiosity, have the manual release, just leave it unlocked.
So if you leave it unlocked, yes, you can lift the handle. But if the handle's open, the motor will just spin and nothing happens, right? Because it's basically it's created that physical disconnect inside.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it has enough gravity to stay on its own, just because I have several people that aren't using this as security because they're smart. This is not security. This is access control. And
Yes.
it's just like, I don't want to have to hunt down the keys at any particular point in time. But that key, just leave it in the housing, guys. If it's not like high security, put a combination lock on the front of it. And that way, all you have to do is remember the combination on the housing and then leave the keys in there, and then you can use that to unlock it. So that way you don't ever have to hunt it down. This particular gate operator that we're looking at here does not have the 310 board in there, but that's pretty much how that housing actually looks for the.
That's the 1050.
That's the 1050, and y'all still make that?
We do. We still make the 1050. We are the 310, and it's new rev that will be coming one of these days soon is an effort though to kind of slim down the number of boards. 1050's got a ton of options, and that's great, but kind of, we were talking about this before, right? We have the linear, we have the high security, we have the nice versions of everything. If you're a service tech, do you really want to carry 100 different boards? Not particularly, right? So if we can kind of pare down that number of boards, that's helping you as a customer and you as an installer, you as a dealer, tech, any of those things.
Is this board that's pictured here going to go away? Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe if it does, it'll be kind of an eventually thing, but I don't think we're not in a big hurry to get rid of it necessarily.
Yeah, that's what I had to put instead of that 310 board on there because I didn't read the manual and see that it didn't have a mag.
I can't get rid of it yet. It doesn't have a mag. I can't do a mag lock without it, Mike.
Well, that's interesting to know for you guys that are just checking this out. That the 310 board may have a revision coming sometime soon. So home run with the arm. I love it. Home run with the arm, that front pivot point, and to where that's not the manual release, so you can have a little bit of uphill or downhill, even if it wasn't the pivot. Even if it was still a solid bolt, you have to get that bracket perfectly aligned, or else it's gonna bind, and that helps eliminate it. I bet what you'll see, I don't know if any other manufacturers have that, but I bet you'll see that the manufacturers that do have the manual release in the front, they go to that particular bolt because of the 5 billion different benefits that you'll actually get out of it, because you never get those things perfectly aligned. But if that's where your manual release is, having a little bit of room in there will help. And then the secondary arm having the long cable, and then I still think that handle is one of the best. So you were talking about the slide driver. There's your boy right there. Look at that. Oh well, it's not the best shot right there. But
what are we zooming in on, Brooks?
Yeah, no. All right, let's get that picture off there. So anyway, I try to keep it rated PG. So that's that. We have several customers in Dallas, large manufacturers that this is the only thing that they'll put in. And because the gates require something that'll handle this, and two, that have asked for me to install it a particular way, and that way is that the anchors that get used in that concrete have an adhesive and the proper bolts. You guys don't want that when you're pushing that much weight. You don't want to have anything other than adhesive type anchor. So we were talking about different boards. So I don't know that I've seen this revision of this board. I think it used to be a CNX and it was blue or something like that. But maybe not. You can correct me. But what's so special about the new boards that you have? Tell us what it's all in right now, this particular board.
So we've used the same form factor that used to be there. Again, we're trying to make not add additional expense. So it's very similar to the one that used to be in the CNX, but it's not the same board. And there's been several revisions to it since. The beauty of this is, and this is when you ask for an answer, and I'm going to unfortunately give you a little bit of a salesy answer. So the old board had all the terminals on it. This doesn't have the screw-in terminals, so I can pull plugs if I'm going to swap a board. It's got a screen on it where I can read more things. Like on the hydraulics, we used to have a 4 or even a 32 character display. This has got more things listed. It gets rid of in the Slide Driver 2, it gets rid of the analog pressure gauge, and I can read that up on that screen as well. So I'm not
Okay.
looking in two different places to try and see everything.
Okay.
The other thing it does, though, which makes everyone's life easier, is we used to ask technicians and installers to carry around a laptop to be able to diagnose the thing and look at the thing, or try and read everything on the little screen. Right, those were your two options. We have the 725, not the 720. The 720 we did away with the radio for security situations. And remind me to come back to that conversation, the security versus convenience. But 725 has the Bluetooth built in it, so I can do it in an app from my phone. I can do diagnostics, I can do programming, any of that stuff. I can sit in an air-conditioned or a heated truck instead of being on my knees when it's 40 below and trying to figure out whether to work on it with my gloves off or my gloves on.
Yeah.
I could sit in the truck and do a lot of the programming and everything else from the app. So it's really it's quite the update. The other side of that, and I'll just be realistic with you, is that the old 585 board was a great board, but after 20 years, parts start to get hard to find and get more expensive, and the memory that was on there was small and everything else. So there was a lot of reasons to go to a new board. Again, just from a selfish standpoint, as a manufacturer, we needed to try to keep costs and everything else down. But now you get, instead of getting 300, different events that it'll list, you get thousands because it's got much more memory. Because memory is way cheaper now than it was then, right? When we designed that.
Yeah. So again, what gate operators will you find this in, and what's the difference between the 720 and 725?
So 720 doesn't have radio or any of that built into it because government locations, certain secure facilities, they don't want any kind of ability to hack it, if you will, from a radio.
So no radio. I gotcha.
So the 725 has the Bluetooth and the radio capability. The 720 does not, and that's like an offline, more analog version, if you will.
So when you order the Slide Driver 2, which comes with one of these board by default, you need to say voltage and you need to say what board.
Yeah, if you want a 720, you're going to have to specify that, correct?
Okay.
Because the standard is going to be a 725 board.
Okay.
If it needs to be a secure location, oftentimes it comes with like a corrections cover or any of those types of things. So you're going to be kind of dictating a bunch of different things about it, but one of the things you'll want to mention is that 720 board for sure, if you want an offline version.
Right out of the box, the Slide Driver 2, what voltages?
So we do 110, 120, if you will. We do 240 and we do 460. We do it in 3 in single phase.
All right, and those are 3 different part numbers? Or can
it's the Slide Driver, Brooks, has always been kind of like a 31 flavors type of setup, right? Like you order it exactly like you want it, or if you go to buy a truck or any of those other things, right? You're going to call out a bunch of stuff. And that's kind of the way a Slide Driver works because it's got a ton of different iterations.
Gotcha.
It is built to order almost every time. I mean, there are some distributors that carry them, but they kind of carry, high runners. But you can order it in so many different configurations, all the way from 1,500 all the way up to 20,000 pounds. I can order it with just the 2 drive wheels. We've got ones with 4 drive wheels.
Oh, okay.
There's a bunch of different things, and it's all based on what it needs to do.
What's the term high runner that you just used? I've never heard of that.
So high runners is probably a one of those things that showed up because I've been in manufacturing now for so long. But high runners is anything that we do a particularly high volume of a certain SKU.
Okay.
That would be a high runner, right?
Oh.
So, your 912, your 310s, those are all high runners because there's kind of only one variety, right? AC, solar. Are you doing one arm? Or are you doing two arms? That's it,
Right.
So those are all high volume. The slide drivers, there's a couple of configurations that are probably higher volume than others, but the rest of them still exist because, again, you've got to be able to configure it for certain things. And I was telling you this before we started, right? I've been everywhere from, the local prison has slide drivers on it, and the Pentagon has slide drivers on it, right?
We're not talking about your personal life.
Yeah. I was in the local prison. This is a long story, but
yeah, gotcha. And they've got slide drivers on there. So this is this slide driver 2 is relatively in the last year or so, relatively new design. So in addition to a 720 or 725 board, what are the other designs? So you said you can connect to it via an app, correct? Okay, so that'll give us the flexibility. Can I save settings in one board and upload it to another board?
I can do that just like I could with the old ones. I mean, I could do that with the old version, if you will.
Okay.
So yes, I can do that. I can save all those events. I can save those, and I can email them directly to tech support out of the app, or I can email them to a customer if I want to show them what's been going on. There's all kinds of things I can do with that app. I can do the very, very simple of, just open and close it. I can do, the very complex of the importing and exporting menus and events and everything else. So lots of things I can do on there. I can even watch the voltage and amperage draws right through the app.
Well, that's good. I think it's a good thing for reference. I always still recommend people check it with their voltmeters. That way they have a known test. So, and it also depends on how accurate and how much resolution it has. Like there's a big difference between 12 and it rounding up from 12.5 and rounds it up to 13. So if you don't have enough resolution on there, at least a couple of digits, it's, in my opinion, it doesn't do that well to know the difference between 12, 5 and 13 if it rounds it up. But the board, go back to the board real quick. I forgot about this, that one board that I saw when I interviewed Mike Landino, who was always a big booster of mine, always helped me with the Access Control Expert School, my personal school that I own. Very, very nice person, very kind.
Dino's a good dude.
Man, he really is. And he is like the opposite of me. He's like smart and calm and reserve and listens to the question and answers it, which is like everything that I'm not good at. But he had told me that the one board, I think it was called CNX board. It was a blue board that had network connectivity. You could actually run a network cable into it. Does the 720 and 725 have that?
So again, the 720 would not.
Oh, okay.
They don't want connectivity. The 725 would. So, and I don't want to. Again, it sounds like you're, pitching something. But in a world of IoT devices, right? Internet of Things. I can connect to my thermostat. I can connect to my, house. I can unlock the doors. I can do all these other things. I can drop a slide driver out there on the end of a network cable, and I've got it connected to my network, and I can operate it and check it and do all kinds of fun things right from there.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, if one thing that Robert and I had based this thing on was open and honest conversation, and I understand it from some people's perspective, trade associations, consumer advocacy groups and stuff like that, how they don't want you to say this about your product. Oh, this is the best. But no, tell us the goddamn that this is the best product and this is why we sell it. So no, tell us that we want the sales pitch, because I need both. We need the technical aspect, and then we also need I put 5 of these in. I know so-and-so company put 5 of these in at the local prison. They've reduced the number of sales calls by X. If you're going to do a prison, this is the best gate operator to have. So trust me, you're not hurting my feelings or anybody else, because what we want to do is we want to inform somebody and let them make a decision. I got no problem selling it. Now that was a couple of changes right there. You could hook up to it with the app and save settings, transactions, and also some of the diagnostic stuff with voltage and current. But you had also changed this as well too. So what's the deal with the limits now? And is it one way or the other, or you can only just get it one way now?
So now it's strictly prox limits. And the reason we've done that, and again, probably airing a little bit of dirty laundry, but as a technician, I've seen this myself. A perfect example would be, snow brushes all the way around, and you had to kind of trim the snow brushes right where the limits would go so that it didn't freeze to it. Or, if you get enough wet, ice, snow, whatever it is, down in there, you could have some freezing of the limits. It's things like that I saw in the field back then that now this eliminates, right? Because there's not like a physical limit switch to fail, whether it's ice or dirt or whatever it might be. There's no physical limit switch to fail. It's just sensing where that magnet is, so it knows exactly where it is, right?
How long has this been out?
This is all new with the slide driver too.
Okay, gotcha. For some reason I was thinking that I saw it actually on the one that I took a picture of with the nice shirt on. But that would have been several years ago. So no, it was something different. So obviously there's a magnet on the track, and then the sensor mounts off the back of the gate operator. Is it inside or out?
Yeah, so if you look at your kind of bottom right of your drawings that you've got there, it says 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch spacing. That's the sensor that's on the back of the machine.
Okay.
And it's sticking up off the back of the machine, off of that arm that's on the left-hand side directly. So that thing at the top of that arm is that sensor. And then in the bottom, what you're doing is you're bolting we call it a limit flag, but it's just a bar with a couple of magnets or one magnet in it, depending on the configuration, to the bottom of the rail. So you've got a magnet in that rail, and you've got your adjustment for the height and distance a little bit of the sensor with that. Kind of almost looks like a pitman arm that's on the left-hand side. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that's how we adjust where the sensor is versus the rail as it's passing through. And it's always been complicated too with like on the high speed ones, if it would tick a limit as it came by because it was adjusted a little too high or something like that. Now you're getting these false trips, and all that stuff has been eliminated with this prox limit setup. So it's a much lower chance that you're going to have service calls over the limits.
And you're really just because I know sometimes the rail's not always perfect, so you're really just worried about where that magnet and that rail end up meeting up at the back or the front, wherever you want it to stop. So you're not 1,000% saying you can't have any movement or not movement, but it doesn't have to be, the rail doesn't have to be perfectly level.
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's better if it is, but it's
Right.
It's like the swing gate setup that we were talking about earlier, right? Like you might install it perfectly originally, and then over time, there's a little bit of sag or something like that in the gate, and now all of a sudden you've got a little bit of this in the rail. It's not as big a deal as it once was, because that limit is not going to tick off of there.
And the rails, do all of the rails now have grooves on the bottom where it meets the wheel?
So you can still get the old flanged version for a solenoid lock that didn't have any grooves in it, but the most of the time it's got the grooves in it now, and it's just a traction thing for the wheels. So the power of hydraulics is amazing.
Yeah.
You could move all kinds of really, really big, heavy stuff. The only thing we ever struggled with was traction.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was one of the things that old school dude showed me. was like, get any hydraulic fluid on this thing. That was prior to having the grooves in there. And sometimes you'll have issues with it grabbing. So one of the things, so we talked about it briefly, so it's not like a gotcha moment, but one of the things I've always been frustrated with having to service hydraulic gate operators in general have been, I don't have the ability to test pressure. I don't have the ability to, I don't typically carry hydraulic fluid on me. I typically don't carry these hoses on me. Is there like a little trick or a little pitch, if you will, that you give technicians to say, hey, look, if you're doing a slide driver, these are the 3 things that you need, or anything like that? What as a guy like me, old, small-minded person, what do you recommend with slide driver and slide driver 2 as far as service parts to keep on your truck?
So really and truly, the primary things are like wear items like wheels, which are relatively inexpensive, right? The wheels themselves are relatively inexpensive. If you have 1 or 2 on the truck, you're going to be fine. And then the other failure point is just like anything else. It's typically a board, and it's voltage spikes or some kind of crazy thing that takes out a board, and all of a sudden you got a dead soldier sitting out there. So it's nothing. I never carried hydraulic fluid, quite frankly.
Gotcha.
Didn't carry hoses, none of that stuff. So unless I knew for sure that the guy says, oh, you know what, guess what? It's got this giant splat underneath of it, so something is obviously blown up.
Yeah.
I didn't really carry that stuff on the truck. It was wheels, which are relatively inexpensive, and boards. It's seriously, that's like all the more complicated it is. Everything else works just exactly like any other gate operator, right? Like it's typically in the peripherals. It's somewhere out there where, I got a photo eye that's holding it open. I got a loop that's holding it open. It won't close because of, I drove 100 miles one time to look at a machine that, it wouldn't close. And turned out control was just holding it downtown, right? And as soon as you opened the cabinet, you could see the light was on. They're just holding it. I pull the wire, it opens, it closes, right? It's the same stuff as any other operator.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. It's probably, like I said, we get stuff built into our head. Sometimes as technicians, we just have blinders on due to 1 or 2 experiences that you have. And the experiences that I've had with the bad experiences that I've had with hydraulics are not y'all's gate operators, but I just had that just going to customers' property, the brand new concrete, and seeing fluid all over the ground on a new arm or something like that. And it's probably just put a bad taste in my mouth. Well, look, man, let's wrap this up. But before I go, 2 things from Robert and I. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And 2, thank you for your patience in Evansville. I know I probably got a little frustrated with the photography moments and things of that nature that I was being a pain in the butt about. But I also want to thank you for being cool about something I was wrong about as well too, which was I had told you I called tech support one day after the training because to be honest with you, what I wanted to do was there was somebody that was giving Sean King a hard time about, your photo eyes are too far back or whatever. Well, at the end of the day, these gate operators didn't need photo eyes. So they are there specifically to make that customer happy. And that's what Sean wanted. He wanted them in that place. He wanted them at that height. That's the way he wants it. That's the way he gets it. And there was nothing having to do with any code regulation or anything like that he had to worry about. So I told you I called tech support. And because I was in the middle of class, they called back from a number that didn't come up as high security. And I told you that, I think I told you 2 days later, hey, I called tech support and they never did call me back, trying to like throw my weight around. Hey, I'm trying to teach on your gate operators. And I will tell you, man, they didn't call me back. And sure enough, you followed up with them. And not only had they called me back, they had also left a message. And it was just in a short period of time. It was within the time that the little automated voicemail called. It was just from a different number than I was expecting. Might even been from a different zip code. And you followed that up not only to the point to say, hey, that they called, but you had also followed up way past that and said, look, we looked at our phone call records and so on and so forth, and sent me the information that you did. So if you will tell tech support that I apologize for saying that they didn't call, because if there's one thing that I do is if I am wrong, I'm going to do everything I can to make it right. But you guys went way out of your way. I would imagine just to make sure that you didn't have a break in your system. But
Yes.
thank you for that. And also thank you. If you could tell the tech support guys, thanks too. I'm sorry that I was wrong about whether they called or not, but I do appreciate the phone call back.
And believe it or not, Brooks, one of the things about that is we figured something out, that we weren't calling back from that same number, and that was sometimes an issue because people were watching for that same number. So my apology, we fixed that. So now when it calls you back, it should be calling you back from the same number that you called.
Oh, I'm going to test it out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man.
Let me know if it doesn't work, because last I heard it, we fixed it.
Well, I appreciate it. You even sent me some screenshots of that exact same thing. So I will be wrong tomorrow, and I'll be wrong the next day as well too. But whenever I am wrong, I'm gonna go 10 times out of my way to say that I was wrong. So, but the important part about that was not that I was wrong, because that's going to happen every minute of the day. That actually is. I tell our technicians when I'm training them, like, look, that's our job, is to be 99% wrong. That is how we get to fixing it right. Now, it could be worded better than that, but that's the diagnostic process. The diagnostic process is do this. Okay, didn't fix it. Do this. Okay, didn't fix it. Yep. And so on. So thank you for going out of your way to handle that. I appreciate it. But there's one more gate operator that I want to talk about, because we briefly covered it in Evansville, but I see a lot of manufacturers going to this form factor that you have in the Juno. So we've got a little bit of a video for the production line to kind of show what the form factor is. But if you could maybe tell us a little bit about why these are so popular, this size is so popular in Europe. And now it's starting to come over here. So let's watch this video real quick. This is at the factory, correct?
Yep, in Kent, Washington. Correct.
In Kent. So this is the model that y'all are just calling the Juno, correct? Does that got a 310 board in there?
It does have a 310 board in there.
Wow, man, I could spot them like you wouldn't believe. I'm trying to get it to stop on one of them. So there we go. That's got the 310 board in there. So you guys, if you guys got that many on the production line, that means you guys are selling quite a bit of these.
We are. And the thing is not everybody wants this big hulking operator out there as a residential customer, right? So these are more of a residential machine. They're made for like 800 pounds, 40-foot gate. But they've got a driveway light on it that lights up the driveway. It's got a status light on it, so you can see the status light from the house. If if it's red, there's an issue. It's there's a lot of, like, I will just say, and again, this was the convenience versus security, right? Like, there is a place and a time for security machines, but most of these little machines, chain-driven swing machines, that kind of thing, they're not security machines, right? They're convenience openers, just like you were saying. They're access control. So this is a convenience opener for a home, and it's kind of designed for a home. It's not supposed to be some big hulking box out there. Looks like it belongs on a storage facility.
Right.
It's meant to be, small and kind of out of the way for the customer.
Yeah, and for people who look at this as the form factor, and that's probably about 18 inches tall.
Yep.
And I didn't know about the status light. That looks like down there on the bottom of the housing. It's a pretty big little LED.
So there's 2+ signs kind of on the left-hand side, at least left-hand side on my screen. One's a clear. It's got the photo eye actually built into it. So
it's got the photo eye built into it.
Yes. Again, wow. Aiming for simplicity, Brooks. And then the other is the driveway light. So it shines a light across the driveway. And
That
then
the photo
the other
eyes
part right
is
there, there's the plus sign. That's another, just like the handle on the Titan. I turn a key, I pop that open, and now the gate's released. It's just an arm that pops out, so I can release the gate and slide it if I want.
Is it releasing it from the gear reducer and everything?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not pushing against the operator.
Nope, totally disengaged.
That's pretty cool. So the driveway light is on and stays on for 20 seconds after reaching the full open or full close. That's interesting. So the photo eye, the thing that would concern me about that is it a through beam or is it a retro reflective?
So we are doing a blue bus retro reflective in this machine. So it's blue bus just like the other ones, which we didn't really get into, but the beauty of the blue bus ones is it takes 2 wires and it's both power and communication. I can wire like 6 of them together all off of the same basic 2 wires. But this has a blue bus in it, and on the other side is the reflector, and that's it. Again, aiming for simplicity, right? Like, how do I make this easier for the guy that has to put this in?
So is the chassis steel, and is it cast or is it pressed?
It's a like what you said is a pressed lid. It's a like a harder plastic lid, but it's got a metal chassis on the interior.
It's got steel chassis.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. I wonder if it's cast or if it's like formed. I have seen some of these gate operators in these form factors that are cast. The only reason why I'm thinking that would be an issue, which is why I was curious about the photo eye, whether it's retroreflective or a through beam photo eyes. I have a lot less issues with that. So, so can I make this into a through beam photo eye because it's got that blue bus power?
Yep, you can. Okay. So again, that's some of the beauty of it. I've got the same little blue bus, same form factor. I can swap that out and put a through beam. I can do one for the front and the one for the back if I want.
Okay, but it would not incorporate if I wanted through beam, I would not be incorporating the photo eye that's built in.
That one that we're sending with it is a retro reflective.
Okay, no problem. I have seen some manufacturers here recently to where the photo eye will do both retro reflective or through beam. So if you have, it's one part number for the transmitter or the receiver. So I just wondered because that's probably something. If the gate operator chassis is not a cast steel, I'm not worried about it moving or anything like that. Therefore, I don't necessarily need to have a through beam photo eye, but that would be my first concern. So I'm assuming because the package is so small that this is not a chain drive.
It is a chain drive.
It is a chain drive. Do you have a stand for it, or is it just like this?
We have a stand for it, and we have a post mount. So there's like a 4-inch riser that you can get for it, and there's there's also a post mount kit for it.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. Because, but one thing I didn't actually see. Let's take a look at this video again. How far is the drive gear, or how close is it to the ground? It looks like it's pretty close.
Yeah. So right off the top of my head, I want to say it's like 10, 12 inches maybe off of the ground. The gear is
the gear, but I'm sorry, I said drive gear, but I meant idler wheels. Are those down?
Those are even closer to the ground, obviously. Okay. So those are maybe 4 to 6 inches.
Gotcha. So if you guys are getting this gate operator, you may want to think about just go ahead and getting that stand, just so you don't have to crank down really hard, or if you do crank down on your chain. So you don't have to crank down on your chain because the chain is going to be low to the ground. So if you get that riser, you said it's about a 4-inch riser.
It's 4-inch riser, and like I said, there's a post mount kit too. I where I live, it snows, so nobody mounts anything on the ground here.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense. Well, look, man, I can't tell you how kind you were in Evansville, which is nice, man. You're welcome. I really appreciate you coming on, especially being a top dog. It's refreshing to know that you guys are out there trying to help these installers, because these installers, with all the stuff that they're facing day to day, trying to keep the doors open on their business, having your guys' support and help, I'm sure is really appreciated. At least for me as a trainer and an installer, it's definitely really appreciated. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And let me thank you for letting me help break the stereotype that all sales guys are just dumb sales guys. There's some of us that are actually technicians as well, right?
Well, you just happen to have sales in your title. We'll just put it like that. Doesn't
by
necessarily,
default, it kind of lowers your expectation a lot, right?
well, with all due respect, that's why I started training, almost a decade ago, is because that's what we were getting in these classes. You would either pay $3,500 for somebody who is a sales guy to train you, or take these free classes and have just be a sales pitch-a-thon. And we need that in our industry, because with all due respect, there's 2 or 3 things I learned about the Slide Driver 2 that I would not have known by just being the installer trainer guy out there. So we need it, but we also need that other technical side as well too. So it's nice to know that you have both. And it's also nice to know that we gave Orlando a hard time today as well too. So
that's important. Orlando needs to be given a hard time on a regular basis.
Well, he was very kind in doing some videos at Bob, and also doing that little practical joke one. So appreciate it. And man, if there's anything that I could do for you, please let me know. We want to hear more about this Juno and the 310 update when you get it. So you're welcome to come back on. Yeah,
for sure. And thanks for having me to dispel stereotypes, give information. I've appreciated the conversation. I think you and I seem to get along pretty well. So this was good.
Oh, I'll ruin that too. Don't worry about that. I'll disappoint you in some way. No.
I'm sure I will disappoint you as well. So it's all right. That happens.
We'll keep these techs out there in business, and keep them installing good gate operators.